growing their revenue. So it's a very exciting space to be in, and a very exciting time as well with what's going on with COVID-19. So we'll go through a lot of case studies here and examples from our current clients, which we hope that will resonate with you.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. I will just start the presentation, then me and Lauren both will switch our slides as we go through the presentation. So as you can see, the topic of today's webinar is that shifting consumer behavior and current advertising opportunities. So we have been having like a series of webinars, and we were talking more about digital marketing opportunities and it's like know-how of digital marketing and the technologies into that. But this topic basically is more on that how the consumer behavior has shifted during this COVID-19 and how it also represent kind of opportunity for us and as an advertiser, how can we take benefit of this opportunity. So this next slide that you see is more of a generic slide that just shows that that the customers, because basically we are advertising to the prospective customers, and when we look at the current customers, basically there are 4 types of customers in this digital media, and when we look at these customers, they are like basically divided in 4 categories. Like there are drivers, analysts, amiables, and expressives. So during the digital age, there's a growth of maybe I will say like there are tons and tons of these digital channels, and there's a growth of all these social channels, and this is very hard to have a channel specific digital marketing strategy and then to expect that the customer behavior would be similar to each other. But this is not, because each channel is very different and unique, and each customer, as I talked about, there are 4 categories of customers who are drivers. So drivers are the customer who basically are like a visionary kind of customers, and they need a different messaging. And then there are analysts who like the data and who like to talk more about like how your product is different than others with the data and with the proof. What is social proof to differentiate yourself? Then there are amiables who are more social in nature. Then there are expressives who are very, very social in nature, who like to be surrounded by people who share their opinions and who talk more about the products. So there are different customers, and there are different social channels. So we always are wondering that, okay, how can we have a omni-channel strategy that can resonate with all kind of customers? And that is something is always a challenge for us as a marketer. So when we look at the overall mission of the advertisement, so this slide mostly talks about that how can you attract a reader, because that is the main thing, because when you attract
this was a webinar on how to deal with customers during COVID, like with all the changing things.
I think I have somebody here. Okay, so I will resume, and if somebody has questions, please type in your questions and I will be able to respond to it. So I was talking about that the mission of the advertisement. So that is to attract a reader, and if you and when he looks at an advertisement, then he starts to read it, and then if it interests him, then he will continue to read that advertisement, and if it convinces him, then he will be reading it, and then he will believe it. So this is something you have to have these qualities of success in an advertisement, and when we have all these qualities in an ad, they are put together and they are called as IDA. So IDA as a model has to be followed when we are just writing our ad or content strategy. So this is a study framework for guiding your audience through the buyer's journey and inspiring them to act. And if you apply it in your content marketing, you'll be leveraging a proven formula that can consistently engage, persuade, and convert an audience into customers. So that is something we have to see it as a journey. And if you look at the current behavior that changes, because the current behavior is changing so drastically, the audience behavior is changing so drastically because of the this current pandemic. We have to change our marketing strategy as well, so that your IDA resonates with your marketing strategy that is current situation. So maybe I will hand it over to Lauren to talk more about current consumer behavior. What are the changes that are there in the audience behavior? And then probably we can understand more that what should be your IDA to reflect your marketing strategy and messaging that resonates well with your brand messaging and your brand value.
Thank you, Varun. Can everybody hear me? We're going to go through some trends that we're seeing, that we can read about, but also it's really exciting because we're working this with our clients right now, and what we read about, we're actually seeing in the client case studies, which we're going to share with you. So like Varun said, COVID-19, here we are, and seeing very rapid changes in consumer behavior. And now online, even before COVID-19, online evolves very, very rapidly in and of itself. And then you throw on top of that a pandemic, and consumers are really changing their behaviors very quickly. So some of the quotes here, and most of these are around, people are getting online, more people are getting online, and also because more people are getting online, digital marketers and companies have to respond to that because everyone gets the information online in different ways. So when you look at some of these quotes, the first one is talking about, and we're all consumers ourselves, so we can relate to this. The online, we're all going to online order, and the curbside pickup. But in the future, as things, quote unquote, get back to a new normal, I know myself, I'm going to think twice before I go into a store. If there's a service where, even a year from now, I believe how I feel now is that I'll want to purchase more online and have more of these services available, the delivery services, the curbside pickup services. And customers aren't wanting to go into the store as much, so you're not having as much opportunity to have face-to-face contact with the customer and really respond to even their body language. So your online content has to be even more capturing for the customer. Yeah. So here's some more research information that we have on specifically cannabis sales by month and by market, looking at the first quarter, right? So January, February, March, compare this to the same time last year, so 2019 to 2020. In California, you see the largest difference, right? So in 2020, there was very large change of sales, increase in sales in California. Not so much in Colorado. Actually in Colorado, a little bit flat, as well as in Nevada and Washington State, there was a bit of an uptick compared to last year. Okay, now this next slide shows the change in behavior of what people are buying in terms of the products. So whether they're edibles, beverages, or flowers. So this, when you look at this, this is the change. So for example, that first bar chart, 28%, that's edibles. So more people are buying edibles now. The edibles are more popular during this COVID period than they were before. And the same with beverages. Then, okay. So this next slide shows another trend, just looking at March and April. So right in the beginning of the pandemic. So for example, the first uptick you'll see, and I know these dates are hard to look to see because they're very small, but the first uptick is February 1st. So February 1st, that basically is, people get paid, so they're spending, typical, they spend their paycheck on things that they want. So that's the February 1st. Then you go to March 17th is the next uptick, and you'll see a lot of activity in there, even a low point around Nevada. And if you may recall, around March 17th to the 21st those were the days when states were really putting restrictions on people and giving them the lockdown restrictions that they needed to stay home. So that's when the hoarding started. The next inflection point here, uptick, is at 420. So 420, as I'm sure you're aware, is the cannabis day, right, in our country. So there's a big uptick there as well. Okay. Now this next slide shows a client case study. And this is client out in California who sells mostly online cannabis as well as CBD products. So you'll see on the left side that the returning visitor and the new visitor. So what we're looking at here is data from the first quarter of 2020 compared to the last quarter of 2019. And for example, returning visitors, you see like 2/3, over 100, like 150% increase in returning visitors in the first quarter of 2020 compared to the last quarter of 2019. Then new visitors. So new visitors in the last quarter of 2019 was around 4,300. And then that increase in the first quarter of 2020 to 6,500. And then you can see also the demand for delivery increased from Q4 of 2019 to Q1 of 2020. And also the spend, the payments, people spent more money compared to last quarter of 2019, first quarter of 2020. Okay. This next slide shows the buying behavior of Gen Z. Now, Gen Z, these are folks who are 25 years old, kind of the younger generation, so to speak. And as soon as COVID hit, they had the most week-over-week growth in that generation. So they really seem to react more so than the other generations to the pandemic. So, yeah. So this next slide shows, similar to a previous slide we had, looking at the different products and how they are selling at this time. So in this, specifically to the Gen Z, the younger generation, still very big on flower. That's the blue right through the middle, or the purple, that's right in the middle. And pretty much steady throughout that time. So they didn't so much change their behavior in what they bought, but how much they bought was a reaction to the pandemic.
Yeah. So Lauren, I will just take a moment here.
Yeah.
So objective here to show the Gen Z behavior is that how your advertising strategy changes in a moment. So if you look at the maybe a sales percentage. Millennials are still the highest in terms of sales percentage. But if you're looking at Gen Z, there's a huge growth that has happened during this pandemic. And if you were not prepared to make this change, if you're not tracking this change in the buying behavior by the generation, probably your messaging would not target to this kind of a change. So this is very important from an enterprise perspective to keep a tab on the opportunity that is here there, and maybe modify and customize your messaging based on the target user. That may be Gen Z, millennials, or maybe people who are like Gen X, or maybe who are in different age groups.
Thank you, Varun. So the next slide shows the difference in gender purchasing behavior. Now this is for legal cannabis only, not talking about CBD yet, but you look at the change of the sales for females is much higher than males. So females are definitely reacting. And like Varun said, with digital marketing, you definitely need to follow that trend. So just keep a pulse on that. So we've definitely been putting more ads out that are trying to appeal more to the female audience to capitalize on their demand at this time. Anything more, Varun?
So I think, Lauren, that is the main learning here, because maybe what we have seen, this is something maybe unique for our clients, but I think it's true because this data is more from industry point of view, that the 31.7% users are female, and if you look at the different age groups within this age group, gender, then we will see that there are different buying behaviors within that. Also, like females possibly between the age of 35 to 45, or maybe females between the age group of 45 to 55 plus, or 55 to 65 plus. They all may have different behaviors, and they may all resonate with different kind of brands, maybe products. So that is something also have been seen, and we can see that in the next slides. Maybe you can.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now we go specifically to CBD products, and you'll see that 26% of Americans have tried a CBD product in the last 2 years. And what are they buying the CBD products for? So they know, they expect stress relief, anxiety, especially at this time, a lot of people are under stress, just staying at home, and just a change of the lifestyle. They're looking for help with joint pain. I have a friend whose mother needs a knee replacement, and the surgery has been postponed. So she's looking for something that's, not a pharmaceutical pain relief, but she wanted something alternative like a CBD cream to put on the painful area. So, and then you also have fun, recreation, as well as looking for relaxation and better sleep. So these are the reasons why people are looking for these products and what they're looking for. So here's another case study of a client that we work with, and you'll see the difference in the male and female behavior in terms of the buying behavior. So the females now this compares April to March, right? So the top number is April, so there's a lot more users that are buying in April compared to March. So there's a big uptick that we've seen during the pandemic. Not so much, I mean, there is an uptick in the male buying behavior, but not as significant as the females. Okay, now this is another client that we work with, and you'll see similar behavior here. However, the males have a much higher increase from March to April than the females from the previous client. So to Varun's point here, each client, we have to follow what is the behavior happening with their users and what their users are looking for. So it's all, based on the product, how the product is branded, and who is attracted to that product. Anything else, Varun?
Yeah, Lauren. So I think you have said almost all of it. So the whole focus should be to analyze the products and the users of that product within that age group. I think that is very important. And the next slide basically summarizes that.
Yeah. So this is really interesting to me. The age groups, the difference in what they're purchasing. So overall, what we're seeing is a very significant growth in the older female population interested in the CBD products. So you'll see at the top there, the 65 plus, 29% growth from March to April. And then 55 to 65, a 12% growth. And then the other significant one is the age group 35 to 44, a 23% increase from March to April. So you really see different behaviors in the different age groups. And as a digital marketer, you really have to follow those trends and change the advertising, change the investment of the ad spend as you see the consumer behavior changing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that is the good learning for us also as a marketer, because when we look at the period that was before this COVID-19, we always saw that 25 to 34 was the possibly the target audience that was more active. The millennials were most active on the digital media. But now we are seeing that people who are above 55 and even the people who are 65 plus, they're using this channel as a like a more actively, and they are the age group that is contributing the highest revenue, and then we had to change our strategy based on that, our targeting strategy, our advertising strategy, our messaging, the content and the placement and everything. So that is also very important, that how do we have to do that. Maybe we'll talk more about digital marketing in the section where I will take it over from Lauren.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here's another example of the age group behavior. So if you look at these, the graph, you'll see that the 25 to 35 age group, that's the Gen Z, basically have the most users in that group. And then the next one down is 35 to 44. But if you look at growth, in this particular chart at the top, the 45 to 54 has significant growth from early January till now, till April. And then you'll see the revenue behavior. So the middle chart shows how much money the groups are spending. So looks like the 25 to 34 age group, while they have the most transactions, are not spending as much compared to the other age groups.
Yes. So the whole objective to show this slide was that if we look at the growth across users, transactions, and revenue. So we were almost flat, having the flat growth rate maybe in 2019 until January, and maybe till mid of February. But you look at the time period from maybe late February and maybe March, and you can see that there's a huge spike in users, transactions, and the revenue. And it was caused because of the situation that we are in, and that helped, that also like not only helped us to drive our campaigns returns, but also, it was very challenging uh, to move your budget, maybe from almost double to double what you were spending earlier. So there were like very quick changes in the overall strategy because of the behavior that we saw. That was a change in terms of online ordering and online buying.
Mhm. So here's a similar chart, but looking at the gender differences. So what males and females are buying. So you'll see that um, the users, it looks like from, as Varun was showing, from January, February, March, April, seems like a steady uptick in the users coming to the website, and a little bit more so with the females in March. So a bit of an uptick there. And then looking at the transactions, it looked like the females had more transactions going on, a big uptick in the month of February, and then March was, more so than males. And then the revenue, so we look at the revenue, and the females are definitely spending more money over time. So even in February, they were spending more money than males. And then March and April was a steady, females are spending more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, like Baruch,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. So as Don, you were saying that there's a great uptake in overall transactions, user base, and revenue. So we can just see that our like user base just got doubled. Like we had 10,000 users when we started in January, and that has gone to like 20,000. So in like 3 months, we saw like more than 100% growth across the user base, and that also resulted into more transactions, like 500 transactions in a month. To it reached to that almost like you can say 900 maybe transactions, and revenues like grew from maybe 50,000 to almost you can see that 150,000. So you see the growth that has come up because of these changes, and our whole strategy changed what we were doing in the January in terms of like being very focused around the messaging and around the targeting, age group wise behavior, and that's something was very rapid change that we saw.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to get into what we've learned about the shift in the consumer behavior, and why did we see what we saw in the digital marketing and the statistics. So when you think about the pandemic and the stay-at-home order, right? So everyone is self-isolating, or at least we're social distancing, and we're preferring to buy things online rather than go to the brick and mortar. Not only are we preferring, in some cases, in most cases, we're pretty much ordered to not going to the brick and mortar stores. And because of that, especially when you look at these products, the cannabis and the CBD, most people are looking at these products for pain management, for stress management. So they panic if they think that, maybe we can't buy those products. So we saw the uptick in the buying. So they're bulk buying a lot of these products. And then the lipstick effect is spending a little bit of money, but you feel good about it, right? So just kind of something that makes you feel good, that you may not be spending an extravagant amount of money, but it just kind of comforts you because you're buying a product that's going to make you feel good, and you're not spending a lot of money, so you don't have that guilt that you spent too much money. And then shifting towards affordability, That's all about, making sure that you get the product that you need. And now we're seeing people don't necessarily, they're not as wedded to a brand because they want to make sure that they get the product at an affordable price. Okay. So this next slide we're looking at again, and we had a similar slide in the previous section around the CBD products that are selling very well during this time, during the COVID-19. So you'll see on the left side, what's selling well are the edibles. Now the oils and the drops, those are actually, tinctures, but also the oils go into things like gummies. So the edibles are the top selling product right now in CBD. And then the creams and the beauty products, and some of the beverages. All right, so here's another case study looking at, again, comparing first quarter of 2020 to last quarter of 2019 in terms of the products that are in demand. So here again, this is, we looked at some research that's telling us, but here we have proof from a client case where the edibles are really the most in-demand type of CBD product. So if you look at that, it's basically double, maybe a little bit more than double in terms of the product revenue from last year, last quarter to first quarter this year. Yeah. Continuing down, you have the tinctures, 25% uptick from Q4 to Q1, and similar down. And now flower, there's a 50% uptick. So definitely the most growth has been in edibles. So the next slide, this one is really interesting. So before you take a look at all of these numbers, just hear me out. So looking at the pattern of sales, I like to think about cannabis and CBD sales before COVID-19 as like kind of going to the bar, having nightlife, where we really saw the buying behavior was happening on Thursday nights, Friday, Saturday, in the evenings. So that was before COVID-19. Now we have the pandemic, and the buying behavior has shifted to the mornings during the week. So you'll see that there's more numbers, more change of people buying on Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning. And then when they used to buy on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, they're not buying then. So it's been a huge shift from the weekend evenings to weekday mornings when they buy. So this is just showing that kind of proof that consumers are exhibiting recession-like behaviors. So they're switching brands to more value products. So they're not as brand loyal, like I was saying before. They want to make sure that they get the product that they need at a value price that makes them feel good and not guilty that they're spending too much money. A lot of people don't even know if they're going to have money next month, or people are out of jobs. Next behavior is around the demand for private labels, or another term for that you're probably familiar with is white labeling. And then finally the cost. So people are just looking for a product that brings value to them. So before I turn it over to Varun, I know there's a lot of questions in the chat room, and I appreciate everybody putting their questions, but we're going to get to those at the end. We will have time, so if you just bear with us, I'll turn this over to Varun to talk about the impacts of the shifts in the consumer behavior.
Thank you, Lauren. So, Lauren was discussing with you earlier about the impacts of shifts, and we will talk more about that, how this trends we are seeing and what is happening, and what is the impact. So we can see that the brick and mortar shops, they are actually moving online. So this is very I think very common. We have seen this thing happening since last few months, and we are also working with few clients who are totally focused on the brick and mortar stores, and they were having their stores, but as we are not going to the, as Lauren was talking about that, the testimonials in the, I think, first few slides, uh, people have moving online because of that thing, because of the safety reasons and all that. So this is a very common trend. And then second was the increase in digital demand. Digital demand has been increasing because of same reason, that people are home and they want to buy more products, and it's very convenient, so they can order at their own convenience. But this has also given a rise to the competition in that way. So we can see this through our case study. So in the next slide, I will show you this, like the increased digital demand. So we saw it for one of our brick and mortar client, that you can see the number of users and comparison from like March to April. And we can see that if you look at the whole chart, the whole growth of the users have gone to like almost 50% in the month of April, if you look at the March in that way. So digital demand has been increasing for the uh, for the clients who were into brick and mortar earlier. And if you look at the third thing, like speed is a new competitive advantage. So that is the thing, because consumers are requiring the products quickly. They want to consume products. And if you look at two kind of customers, one is like a customer and a consumer. So I think there's a rise of consumers in these days. But customers can buy for others, but consumers buy for themselves to consume these products. And if you have a speed, then it's going to be a competitive advantage. So quicker delivery, faster delivery is an advantage for the companies who are having that. Then we saw the ad frequency is the key, because earlier there was a kind of a flat targeting that we used to have, where we were targeting all to the all hours of the day. But now we have seen that there's a distribution of the demand during the different hours. So if you look at the hours, this is a case study from one of our client. So we can see that maybe the mornings, maybe you can see the morning hours. This is as per the California time, the Pacific time. So we can see the morning hours are the hours where we have seen the highest demand. So you can see that the number of users out of 5,000 users, we can see that almost like 50% users, they are buying maybe from 7 to 12 in that way. And the other users are distributed throughout the day in that way. So we have to schedule our ads where we have highest demand versus we have the lowest demand. So we have to distribute the budget to the hours where we have highest demand. So if you're not targeting your ads properly, and if you're not putting the ad frequency as per the demand of the hours, you will probably lose your budget. So in order to get the highest ROI, this is very important part of the strategy, and we have been trying this to get the highest ROI for our clients. Then the next impact we have seen is the bulk buy. So we never saw that somebody was buying for example, $1,000 online, or somebody was buying for maybe $1,500 online at one order. But we have seen this kind of impact in our clients' sales. And this was very common for our clients. Like we saw orders, like one user is buying for like $1,300, and maybe he's buying so many products at the same time. So this is like bulk ordering that we have seen. And I think that's why there is a change in the overall strategy, where companies are also offering some kind of discounts on bulk ordering. And I think this is a part of the strategy for digital campaigns as well, like where you can give the bulk discounting and the offers, so that you can encourage more kind of regular buying, and you encourage the returning users to buy more in terms of bulk from your company. Then the next thing we have seen is the perks add value. So when we because there are a lot of new users who are coming, and new users may not know your brand very well, but as Lauren was talking about in the last slide, that there are recession like behaviors where people are encouraged to buy maybe something that is much cost effective than something that is very high in brand value, and maybe that is very costly. So we have to have the sample trial packs where we can increase the purchase, and with complementary products we can give as on offers, and there's a competitively price product that we can say. So we have to package ourselves so that the customers are encouraged to make more buying, and they are also looking it as on from the lower cost perspective. So the next three changes that we have seen, like focus on quality. So this is the something, because customer is expecting something cheaper, maybe lower in cost, but also the quality has to be there. So if we highlight more of the terms, like something like maybe you maybe certified by some lab, or something like you are having some products that are FDA approved, or some kind of customer testimonials or reviews that can highlight that aspect, and maybe can uh, give you more boost on the quality side. So this is something that is very important to focus on the quality on the advertisements. And this, then we saw that our some of the clients, like we can see wholesale moves from high tech to high tech. So as dispensaries are getting very less foot traffic, this is something interesting to see, because our clients like Columbia Care, they launched a new tool. There's a virtual care. So this is same as the physical experience, but the only difference is that you are safe, and you have the virtual sales associates, the health professionals who can guide you through your medical marijuana buying, and maybe they can also consult you. And then there's a whole customer experience that is similar as the offline. So this is the tool that they launched. So virtual care tool was a good hit among all the dispensaries on Columbia Care. So they started to test that on San Diego dispensary. Then they launched it in Washington State dispensary, then Florida. So and this has been a very hit kind of project for them. And so this is a new change that we saw, and they have been able to adapt to the change as per the current COVID-19 challenge situation. So the last one thing is only that we can see that COVID-19 has highlighted that every business has to be agile. We can't have to have one strategy that can work, that fits for all. It's not true. We have to have a strategy that is omni-channel strategy, and it has to agile. It has to change as per the changing environments to stay relevant. And one client we have been working with, like like the whole focus for that client was the only offline sales, and they were lucky to enroll us just before COVID-19, like in the month of January. And we started to roll out their products, and we started to work on the digital channels. And when the COVID-19 came, luckily they were able to survive this change, because they moved to online, and their whole sales that is coming from is digital. Because the offline channels are not working at all at right now. So this was the whole uh, uh, learning for us, that that how the agility is important for every business, and that is something will make us relevant in the long term. So the next section is more about the advertising opportunities during COVID-19 or during any pandemic. So the first thing, and there are like three-step strategy. So there are increased opportunities in a pandemic. So there are three-level strategy. One is that how data can be tracked, and how data is tracked, that shows you the evolving consumer habits. And based on the data, you can make decisions on like what should be the content, what should be the budget, what product should be advertised, which age group should be targeted, or which kind of gender should be targeted. So these decisions can be made only if you have proper data tracking. So either you can use it via first party data uh, uh, by using digital marketing platforms, or maybe the Facebook that can give you lookalike models, or you can also use third party data that can help you to find new potential customers in that way. Second level is that the digital channels have been in the pandemic, so that is very true. So if you look at the CTV, streaming audio, digital marketing, local news, they have seen the massive upticks in that way, and you have to move our strategy to those digital channels to grab that kind of demand that is there, to bridge that gap on supply and demand. And third part is being very creative, because I was talking about the IDA in my first two slides, and I think that is very important, because if you are not able to attract your customer when they are coming to the seeing your ad, so because that is the mission of an advertisement. So if you can't attract the reader to look at your advertisement, and you can't let him start to read that, then you can't interest him. And if you can't interest him to continue to reading the ad, he will leave your ad and he will not click on it. So objective is that how can we make user believe on what we want to say in the advertisement. And if we have these three qualities on the advertisement, that is to attract a reader, to interest him, and to convince him so that he can take an action on it, and that will be the successful advertisement for you to complete the action, that is sales for yourself. So as I was talking about the uptake of digital channels, we can see these different channels like OTT and CTV. So we can see like there is a huge growth on Netflix, Hulu, or maybe Amazon Prime, and these channels have seen so huge uptake on the users. So we can see that how this can help you as a brand. Maybe if you want to advertise, and if you want to reach out to audience, and you can actually um, maybe create the affinity between the users for your brand. Then the streaming audio, there's a huge uptick on the users on streaming audio. So if you can create the audio messaging, you can maybe do some podcast, or maybe you can create some kind of brand messaging that is family friendly, and also is helping users. That is also something can grab the attention of your users. Then the local news, and we have seen that there's a huge uptake of demand on these local sites. So we can always take the benefit of it by partnering with the maybe local publishers, or maybe whitelisting with the local news sites, and or maybe then supporting the communities with the localized messaging. So one example here I would like to give is the event that we have promoted in the month of April, on 26th of April, on this Saturday. So that was to support maybe the LA COVID-19 fund, and that was all together now was the event. So we promoted that event as a digital event where they were giving the online concert, and there were users who were attending that concert online from all across the country, and they also donated, and there were brands who supported that kind of concert. And our client, that was the main sponsor of the whole event on the digital side, got a lot of traction, because that was the right messaging and right time to do that kind of event, and that has helped them to boost their not only the brand online, but also it has given boost to their online sales, and there are a lot of positivity towards that brand. So that is something that can work very well during these times. The last resort I'm seeing here is digital media. So that is the best media, and we work with our clients using that media. And so this is very important to have the right mix of organic and paid media for your brand, because it can't be one way, only organic or only paid. It has to be the right mix of that. And because SEO is a very long-term process, so when you start SEO doing today, or maybe it will take some like 3 months to 6 months to to help you to get those kind of user base that you are looking for. But if you look at the paid media, if you want some instant return, if you want to utilize the current uptick in demand, and if you want to sell your products online immediately, there's a paid media that can help you with that. But the only challenge is uh, uh, a lot of regulations around cannabis and CBD advertising on Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, and other channels. So one has to understand very clearly what is allowed, what is not allowed, what is legal to advertise, what is not legal to advertise, what are the state regulations in terms of messaging, and that is something is very important, so that you can get your ads live immediately, and then you can also get a lot of traction immediately, and the sales. So as experts, we have got some experience on that, and we have helped our clients to quickly get that kind of benefit out of our expertise, and it has helped them to not only get online but also get very high returns. And using right creative content, so that is something is very important, because content is king, and that can only drive your IDA, like attention, interest, desire, and action. That is something is very important. And uh, and, and if you use it right in a creative way, it can give you highest ROI. So we have to have the content that is very, very targeted and specific. For example, for females, for 45 plus, 45 to 55, for females who are having pain, arthritis pain, and the product that resonates with their kind of pain area is the, for example, the pain cream, CBD pain cream, and then you write the right content. So and you just target that 45 plus user base. So when that female of 45 plus sees that ad, and she sees that similarity on what she's looking for, and what is something is being advertised, and there's a similarity between what is she searching and what is she seeing in the ad, and then after clicking on the ad, what is there on the landing page, and then there will be action after that. So this is very, very, very crucial to have a right content strategy and targeting to get the high return on ad spend from your advertisements. So the data part, I was talking about the 3 steps of the whole digital marketing plan is following your evolving consumer, because your consumer is evolving. As I was talking about, like 4 level of consumers that are there in the digital media. So like we have drivers, analysts, amiables, and expressives. We have to understand which consumer type is there. Either it is a driver or analyst who needs a lot of data to uh, maybe make a purchase decision, or amiables, someone who is very social, or expressives who are very, very socially active, and they want to share themselves, they want to share their opinions about a brand. So the first party data, getting that data is very important, and collecting that is very important. So we have to have direct, so either we can have direct behavior, like that relationship with the consumers, and collect the data by users who are visiting your site. So if you run a campaign, you have users who are coming to your website, and you can create those lists. That is what a remarketing list in terms of Google. And ad role, Salesforce also has that kind of capability, and digital marketing platforms who are different, maybe Marketo and others platforms can also have that ability, maybe brand.com. So there are some examples that I have given. So maybe create those lists, create those lookalike models for the new prospects.
Yeah, I do. It's the strategy we've had before, to an extent. Getting marketing lane is just how we afford it.
Then we have the third party data. So this is like, if you are not able to create that kind of marketing list or lookalike models, always believe on third party data to get the quick benefit out of the like consumer targeting. So there are a lot of third party data we have, is like Dun Bradstreet, and Decimal, Nielsen, Quebec IQ, and then maybe launch your campaigns so that you are very targeted on that, and then optimize those campaigns based on the performance you see. So we need to create a
That's the goal.
So the third part is the getting creative. So getting creative with the brand messaging that connects with the consumer. So if you cannot have a messaging that connects consumer, this is something is again going to be a problem in that way. So so the brands who are using the item, I think somebody has forgotten to mute. So let me mute that gentleman.
Can measure whether things are getting better or they're getting worse, and that's all we can use. So yeah, I mean, we'll get better. You'll have to, whatever is done, will have to show some positive improvement. It's always hard to.
So, dear host, if you can mute the other participant, I think it will be better for every participant. Okay, so I was talking about getting creative with the brand messaging that connects with the consumer. So strategy here is that we have to be very hyper local in terms of targeting. So when you are using this strategy, you think about maybe who is searching for this kind of keyword. For example, somebody dispensary near me keywords on a particular pin code or area.
And got a ton out of it at this point. You know, kind of got to go in the background.
So Namrata, can you please mute, gentlemen?
Varun, why don't we go to the questions? We have a lot of questions and only a few minutes here.
Right.
Okay, so let's go through that. I think.
Yeah, Sammy's client testimony. Is this guy trying to sell something? He's selling client testimonials.
So the question I have is from Don Banks. Promote my brands to regulars with timely offers. Will thanks help with running customers want to be that can be targeted. So yeah, I mean that is a very good question. Thanks, Don. So I think as Ron was talking about, like having the timely offers, and I think like we've seen the current situation. If you can have something that gives user a quick saving, it will be good to have that offer. And returning customer is very important because of the reason that because that knows about your brand and they have already made a purchase decision. So there's a trust that is there, and I think it will be good to retarget that customer. So having a first party data, as I was talking about in the last slide, and getting that remarketing list is very important. If you can create the remarketing list, we can retarget those customers and we can show the offer so that we can engage that customer and maybe make a sale to that again. Then again, I think again there's a question from Don. We can see. Okay. Then we are from David. How can we influence customers to consume and buy more during the pandemic? So, Lauren, do you want to take this question because it is more on?
Yeah. So David, in terms of influencing customers to buy more, actually there's a few things, right? So what Varun has talked about with the IDA, just get really targeting clients is very important. The segmentation is very important, knowing the exact market that your product is targeted for. Like we keep giving the example of older females who have joint pain. So really having that content to target that particular market. And also the retargeting that Varun just talked about, knowing who has come to visit your site before, putting together a retargeting campaign to get them to buy more. And the final thing that I'll offer that we've done that has worked out very well in the past is choosing one product that sells very well and making it even more attractive to customers. So creating a package, pricing that's very affordable, like $9.99 or $19.99. People really don't want to go over, say, $29.99, especially at this time. So put other products within that one product that's very popular. So those are ways that we've used to influence customers to buy more. And then
the next question is like, on which channels sales got impacted most during the pandemic? So I think we have seen that most sales that was impacted was on the like offline channels, and basically on the digital side, if you're talking about the growth, we have seen great uptake on all the channels, and that's something we have seen. The next question is, what does this number like 147 mean? Number of people who buy at that time. So I think it is from the table that Lauren was showing about the change in behavior of buying. Users were buying more on the Wednesday, Tuesday mornings rather than buying on the weekends and evenings. So number 147 mean that if you look at the number 100, that is the median. And if you look at uptake, like more you go above like 100, it's like 47 is like 47% up than what would be the considered as a sales. And if you go down, it's a negative in that way. Then Carlos has asked us to get in touch with him on this email ID and number. So Lauren, if you can note it down, probably we can email him.
Yeah. And then John has questions about the restrictions.
Yeah. So this is again very challenging, because as I talked about, like there's a gray area around what is allowed and what is not allowed. So we have to be creative around that, and is more of A/B testing. So we always keep trying, and some things work, and if something doesn't work, then we have a like a B plan to go live on that. We can talk more about that maybe on a different call, John. So we'll reach out to you, and you can also reach out to us in our email that is there in the last slide. James, and insights for him skincare brand targeting California audience only. And then the second question from James is that will allow CBD hemp advertising? So we can of course do the targeting for California for hemp skincare brand. That is allowed. And last question is ad roll. So ad roll does not allow you to advertise directly on the platform, but they are rolling out a beta program, and we are the certified agency with the ad roll, so we can help you to roll out that campaign if you want to.
Just want to add with James asking about the California audience. We work, even region by region in California. So we can target very locally. So we have one client in the LA area, and for example, they want us to put more ad spend into like Glendale, surrounding areas, just following where the purchasing is happening. So yeah, we can make that very focused for you.
So these are all the questions that were there. So thank you everybody for attending this webinar. We appreciate your time, and let's get in touch with each other. These are our LinkedIn accounts and our email IDs and numbers, and let's get in touch after the webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody. Have a good day.